Today I'm going to kind of go over the build on my 2018 Jeep JLU Rubicon and just kind of go over some of the upgrades I've done and some of the transformations that I've made over the last 3 years that I've owned it to where I've come now. And of course then there's things I still want to do. Anyway, so I thought we'd start in the front here and kind of start from there and just kind of work back and then do some of the stuff on the interior. So one of the first things, but not the first thing I did, was a bumper and the winch upgrade. So for the bumper, I'm running the Poison Spider crawler bumper, and I like it. It looks good. And then for the winch, I'm running the Warren 10,000S. So it's got the synthetic rope, which I actually really like. And I've only used it, I think, twice, and it wasn't for me. It's pulling 2 other people out. So anyway, one of the things I did just recently, like a month or 2 ago, I actually put the Genesis dual battery kit in, and I really like it. I kind of got to the point where my other batteries were kind of getting weak, they were failing. So I wanted to do it, so I just decided now's the time. So I installed that, and I really like it. I have a fridge in the back, so it just gives you that little more peace of mind when you're out on the trails doing things, not worrying about if your Jeep's going to start in the morning when you go to pack up to leave. And then for the motor, I haven't done anything to it. Stock. It's a 3.6 liter, and then maybe we'll move around to the side and kind of look at some of that. Okay, kind of move around here to the side of the Jeep. I did a bunch of upgrades. I don't know, it's probably been a year and a half ago. And one of the things I did at that time was I got rid of the Rubicon, the stock Rubicon rock sliders, and moved to the Moto-Built rock sliders, which I really like. I was starting to do enough stuff that I was afraid I was going to shove the stock ones into the body. And these have held up because I've had them full on laying right on them and against them, and they've held up really good. One of the other things I did pretty quick after I bought the Jeep was I put on the Metal Cloak skid plates, and they've been really good. And so I'm running those, versus the factory ones. Okay, let's talk about suspension now. So that was the first thing I did when I bought the Jeep. I think I signed the papers on it on one day and got them to give me some prices on a lift kit and wheels and tires. And then went back in the next day and ordered them and got them all coming. And it took a little while. That was back when it was hard, everything was new. It took probably a month or so to get everything in to even do the suspension lift and wheels and tires. So I started out with the Metal Cloak 3.5 inch Game Changer, which I really liked. It was I really liked it. It performed very well, rode good. And then I went to, for the tires, I started out with 37 1250 Nitto Ridge Grapplers on some Method beadlocks, and it worked really good. I drove it that way for a year, and then a year later I got the crazy idea to go 1-tons, which I kind of was planning on doing, but just not that quick. But the more I was doing, I'm like, you know what, I'm wanting to do a little more difficult stuff, and I just want the security of knowing that pretty much not going to break something. There's always that chance, but it greatly reduces it. So anyway, I went ahead and ordered those, and so I ordered Dynatrac 60s front and rear with 538 gears, which I really like the gearing for the side, because then I went from there from the 37s to 40s. So once I decided I was doing the axles, I decided, well, if I'm going to go 1-tons, I might as well go 40s. So then I went to a 40-inch, 13.5 inch Nitto Ridge Grappler, which I've really been happy with the Ridge Grapplers, these Nitto tires. I've gotten really good traction. I mean, I've been really happy with them. And then I switched over to the KMC beadlock wheels, the Machetes, which I like them. I like the style. That's kind of what I was looking at doing when I bought it originally, but then I ended up going the Method. But both wheels are really good wheels. I really like the KMCs. So got the stuff in, put the 1-tons on, new wheels and tires, and it kind of just kept going. That's when I did the rock sliders, bumper, rear bumper, tire carrier, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then I went with Gen Right fenders, front and rear. And then I kind of need a little more clearance, so I ended up going coilovers. So I went with the Rebel Off-Road coilover kit, which basically just replaced the shocks and the springs, and I kept all the rest of the metal cloak stuff, which down the way I'd like to go long arm. I'm looking at doing that. I don't know, it'll be down the way a little bit. But anyway, so that's kind of what I did with the suspension. Maybe we'll move around to the back and kind of go over those other things that I did when we did all these other extra upgrades. One other thing I forgot to mention, when we did the upgrade with the suspension, all that, with the coilovers and everything, I went to anti-rock rear sway bar. Still running the stock factory Rubicon one in the front. It's been really good. I might change that down the way. Haven't totally decided, probably will. But anyway, that works well with everything that I've got on. All right, moving back to the back of the Jeep, I went with the Moto-Built rear bumper, which I really like. I like the styling, and so I really like that. And then I also went with their tire carrier, which beefed up it so I could carry a 40-inch tire. And that's kind of why I went with it. There wasn't a bunch that you could run a 40-inch tire on the back, and this one I could, so I went with that. And they're set up for the license plate and the camera and all that. So maybe we'll go ahead and move on to the inside of the back of the Jeep. All right, now open up to the back of the Jeep. I've did a few things back here, not a bunch. I did go with the Goose Gear platform just on the back. I didn't do any seat deletes, which I've thought about doing it. I may do down the way. We'll just have to wait and see. So I went with the Goose Gear deck, and then I put an ARB air compressor, the dual one, sits back there, which I really like because it keeps it out of the dirt from outside and just keeps it out of the weather. And the only time that I run it is when I'm airing up my tires or something else similar to that, because my axles actually have the E-locker. I kept with the E-locker instead of going with the I guess air lockers. So anyway, so I put that in. I added a fire extinguisher on the roll cage, and then of course I added an ARB freezer to go with it for when we're camping, or even just out for day trips, or to keep our stuff cold. And I actually like having a Jeep. I do have a trailer that I pull behind when we go camping and do some of those type of trips. And I like it in the Jeep because then when I unhook, if I decide not to take the trailer with us, I always have food with me and drinks and stuff. And then I think that pretty much wraps up the back of the inside of the Jeep anyway. One thing I did do during that, when I did a lot of the stuff, is I actually swapped out the exhaust to a MagnaFlow. They called it a Rock Crawler Special at the place I did it. I basically got rid of that big muffler in the back that everybody's hitting and stuff, and it tucked it up, and it seems like when I started driving, it helped me get maybe another mile per gallon. But anyway, I like it. It works good. So let's maybe move into the interior of the Jeep and kind of go over some of the things in there. Moving into the inside of the vehicle, haven't done a lot of things in here, just a few things. First thing is the 67 design rail, and then the arm and the phone holder, which I really like, works really great. And then the arm and the holder for my mini iPad. For mapping and different things, just being able to keep track of where we're at on the trail, and maybe to plan out. Sometimes we plan out a trail so we kind of see where we're going. And then I also have an extra little ball mount, which I have an extension that hooks onto a GoPro, so I can put on there when I want it. The other thing I did was the Jeep Unique mount, which holds my rugged radio for communications and my Garmin Mini satellite communication device, and which I really like. I've used it a lot, just up camping or things like that. Be able to communicate back down to family, or if my brother or somebody's going to come up, I can tell them exactly where I'm at. if we didn't know exactly where we're going to be camping, because sometimes you get up there and the place you were going to camp's taken. But always has worked, no matter where I've been. Never had it not work. So I've been really pleased with it. It works super good. I think it's a really good tool to have, especially when you're going way back in like we do at times, and especially by ourselves. So if we did have a problem, we can at least get communication out and get help. The only other thing that I've done in here is the brake controller, because I do have a trailer that I pull behind the Jeep. It's kind of like it's an overland type trailer. So that made it nice to be able to pull that, and it has brakes on it, which we'll go into more detail on another video. Do a walk around it and kind of go through the things that it has and all the stuff with it. But anyway, that kind of wraps up all that. So there we go. So one of the other things we did after doing all the suspension upgrades, you know, the coilovers and everything, going 40s and 1 tons, and one thing I noticed with the 37s, when you're locked up in the rocks, you can't turn the steering wheel. It doesn't work very good. You kind of have to move a little bit and try and you can do it, but it's hard. So when I went to 40s, I was like, I've got to have something better than that. So I went with the PSC hydraulic assist steering, which has been awesome. Been up, I mean, you don't even know. In fact, the first couple times I went up in there, locked up through one of the trails in the rocks, I went clear through the whole trail, and I'm like, hey, I didn't even remember that being tough, and it's just so easy. You didn't even notice it. One of the times I went to go up one trail, or one rock, and I didn't like exactly my placement, so I turned to back up, and there's a big rock next to me, and it just shoved it out, and I couldn't even feel it. So very impressed with the PSC steering. So anyway, that kind of one of the extra things I added to make it all work well. So the last thing I did, I almost forgot to mention, was I added some 6 rock lights. So I've got one in each fender. I don't know if you can see that or not, but one there's one in the center on both sides, and then of course each fender. And I just did that like 2 days ago. So we haven't even had a chance to really use those yet, but we did turn them on when it was dark, and it looks like they're going to work really great. Anyway, that's kind of the things that I've done to my Jeep over the last, it's been 3 years. Most of it was done in probably the first 2 years. And then this last year, just a couple things. And now I got a few more things I want to do for the long arms. I'll probably add some A-pillar lights, probably Baja design on the front of the Jeep. And I don't know, there's always more stuff down the way to add. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hope it would give you some information. And have a good day.